Hey everyone, welcome back to The Explainer. Today we're diving into something we literally strap onto our bodies every single day, our shoes. But look, we're not just doing a fashion critique here. We're actually peeling back the layers on how our everyday footwear choices are this incredible mirror for our deepest levels of psychological well-being, self-esteem, and personal priorities. It's wild to think about, but what we put on our feet tells a massive story. Are we dressing to feed our ego, or are we dressing out of genuine self-love? It's a surprisingly deep rabbit hole, so let's just jump right in. Okay, let's dive into this by totally calling out a huge cultural myth we've all just kind of accepted as normal. This wild idea that true beauty requires physical suffering. I mean, we see it everywhere, right? People enduring hours of absolute agony, squeezing into shoes they think make them look elegant just to meet some arbitrary, uncaring societal standard. But here's the fundamental question we have to ask ourselves. Is it really worth feeling all that pain to fulfill a standard of beauty that, honestly, nobody else even truly cares about? True beauty should absolutely never demand that you sacrifice your own physical health. To really wrap your head around the absurdity of this sacrifice, just picture a very specific, incredibly common modern scene. Think about the streets of Las Vegas, say 2 a.m. on a Saturday. What do you see? You see women walking totally barefoot, physically carrying those supposedly elegant shoes in their hands. They're stumbling, they're losing their balance, they are just entirely defeated by their footwear. That visual right there brilliantly shatters the illusion, because that's not elegance. That is undeniably a physical defeat brought on by prioritizing a temporary appearance over actual functional well-being. So why does this defeat happen? Well, we've got to look past the surface-level symptom of pain and look at the cold, hard science of what's actually happening to the human body. We are talking about the hidden biomechanical cost. When you throw on very high heels, stilettos, narrow-pointed toes, or super rigid platforms, you're not just adding a few inches of height. You are completely hijacking your body's natural stride. You're fundamentally altering human biomechanics, and repeating that unnatural movement day in and day out, it creates an immense, compounding structural burden on your body. Now, what's really interesting about this is the sheer mathematical reality of that shift. Just 1 centimeter. For every single centimeter of heel height you add, you are drastically displacing the weight of your entire body forward right onto the ball of your foot. Just think about the physics of that for a second. Your body was beautifully designed to balance its weight across the whole foot. When you shove all of that pressure to the front, your body's entire center of gravity is thrown into utter chaos, and your skeletal system essentially has to scramble just to keep you upright. And because of that forward shift, your muscles and joints are constantly forced into overdrive just to overcompensate and maintain your balance. It sets off this devastating chain reaction of pain. I mean, it starts right down at the feet and toes, but then it travels up to strain the ankles, grinds away at the knees, totally misaligns the hips, and eventually shoots right up into your spine. Over time, this daily compounding damage leads straight to chronic fatigue, severe muscle tension, and long-lasting postural problems. It's literally a stacking effect of physical trauma. So if the physical cost is just that high, we really need to look beneath the surface. We have to pivot from the physical pain to the psychological root cause. Like, why on earth do we willingly subject our complex, delicate biomechanical systems to this kind of stress? Well, it's a lot like an iceberg. The physical pain, that's just the little tip visible above the water. Way below the surface is the psychology driving our choices, and it brings us to a really critical crossroad of motivation. When we really interrogate our motivations here, we see a totally stark contrast. On one hand, we've got choices driven entirely by ego. The desire to please others, desperately seeking external validation, and prioritizing a fleeting, temporary appearance. But on the flip side, we have the profound internal validation of healthy choices. This side is driven by self-love, a rock-solid commitment to long-term health, and high self-esteem. Choosing footwear that actually cares for your body isn't just about comfort, guys. It is fundamentally an act of deep self-respect. It's you declaring that your long-term health matters way more than a temporary look. And this brings us to a complete redefinition of a concept we've somehow gotten entirely backward. True elegance is absolutely never found in suffering. It's not found in gritting your teeth through the pain or ending up barefoot on a dirty sidewalk at midnight. True elegance is defined by security, freedom, and well-being. It's the ability to move through the world naturally and safely, with the full integrity of your posture intact. At the end of the day, elegance is walking without pain. Let's move to and see how this builds into something we can actually use. How do we translate this philosophy into our daily lives? If we want to embrace this redefined version of elegance, we need a practical guide for picking what is essentially self-love footwear. When we're out shopping, how do we actively protect our lifelong physical companion, our body? Well, here is a clear, super actionable checklist for finding a healthy shoe that actually lets you move naturally. First up, you want to aim for a low heel, ideally somewhere between 1 and 3 centimeters. Second, you absolutely need a wide toe box so your toes can actually splay and move freely, not get crushed together. Third, look for a flexible sole that moves with your foot, not against it. Fourth, you need good arch support to maintain structural integrity. And finally, uniform weight distribution. This checklist isn't just a guide for buying shoes, it is quite literally a blueprint for walking with autonomy and physical freedom. We really have to keep this stark reality top of mind. Fashion is entirely temporary. It changes every single season, usually driven by ego and whatever the latest fleeting trend is. But your physical body, that is forever. Your body is the one true companion that has to carry you through your entire life. So punishing your permanent physical form for a temporary seasonal trend is just a fundamentally flawed trade-off.
So the crucial point is this, and it's probably the most profound takeaway from our entire explainer today. Prioritizing your health actually enhances your life in much deeper ways. The best, most authentic beauty is the kind that doesn't hurt. It's the beauty that cares for your posture and gives you this authentic, confident walk without needing anyone else's validation. This authentic beauty, rooted in health and self-esteem, naturally cultivates genuine connection. Because when you respect yourself enough to walk without pain, it brings authentic confidence and true love from others and self-love.
Conversely, playing into the temporary, painful aesthetic of a high heel breeds the exact opposite. It breeds ego, a super shallow focus on appearances, and ultimately a distinct lack of love. When your choices are entirely motivated by some external, uncaring standard, you're essentially acting out of a lack of true self-worth. And you know what? That lack of self-love radiates outward. It ends up attracting shallow approval rather than genuine connection and real love from the people around you. Which brings us to our final thought for this explainer. The next time you go to put on a pair of shoes, I want you to ask yourself this really provocative question. How do you want to be walking in 20, 30, or even 40 years? Do your choices today actually reflect a desire for long-term health and genuine self-worth, or are you sacrificing your future mobility just for a temporary illusion? Ultimately, the decision between your ego and your true self-love is entirely in your hands and, well, on your feet. Thanks so much for joining me today. I really hope this gives you something powerful to think about on your next walk.